Back to Afternoons Live. I'm Tyler Axis, your host. Eric Johnson, our producer. We're going to be with you until about 5 o'clock punch out today. We will talk about, the slap, the Oscars. I don't watch these sort of things, but quite frankly, everyone's talking about it. So I'll have that conversation a little bit later on, as well as talk a little bit about a blog, an article I wrote over the weekend for KFGO.com. But I want to start here with a topic that we've been following along. You and I, as listeners, have had conversations about what this development is, whether it's the carbon capture at Summit Pipeline, the ethanol, or the plant that over in Castleton. And quite frankly, this latest one up in Grand Forks, you got Foo Fang, which is a company owned out of China. It's a Foo Fang group wanting to put a corn milling plant near Grand Forks. And the way of which this has all come about, when it has collaboration, has there been any? We just have a lot of questions, and I think, quite frankly, those that are asking those questions deserve answers. And here to have a conversation about all of this is a couple of gentlemen from that area. We got Frank Matichek joining us in the KFGO studio. Frank, welcome to KFGO.
Thank you.
Craig Spicer, welcome to KFGO, also up in the Grand Forks area.
Hey, hi, Tyler. Thanks.
Thanks for coming on down here, making the drive here. This conversation and quite frankly, this topic has been growing. I think there's been more people that have become involved in this because they weren't really given an opportunity up front to have their voices heard until it seems like, hey, this ball's already been pushed down the court. I'm curious, you two local residents, going to be right next. How did you find out? Craig, I'll start with you about this project.
I guess I found out through word of mouth that some of the property owners were approached and were selling some property at an extravagant amount of money, and that was my first draw on it. So.
Okay. Frank, how about you? You found out about this, not from somebody coming knocking on the door, I would imagine.
No, there was a very small article in the Grand Forks Herald, and our township supervisor, Phil Kramer, said, hey, what do you know about this? And I said, I really didn't know anything, and I looked up the article in the Herald, and I knew exactly where the property was. It was right behind the old jet fuel tanks on right off of 27th Avenue. In Faulkner Township in Section 29. And we talked a little bit about it, and Phil said, I think we should find out from the city what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So he was at a meeting with a few guys, and he said, hey, how about talking to the township about this? And they go, oh, you think we should have a meeting with you guys? He said, well, yeah, it'd be kind of nice. It's going to be in our township. We'd like to know what's going on. And once we found out more and more about it, we had a few township meetings, and we found out that just about all of our residents and all of them that I know of at each meeting was against it. And we had started to find out the property owners were against it.
Mm-hmm.
And we started to find out that a lot of people in the city were against it. So it just kind of mushroomed from there. But one of the biggest things is that this thing was going on for a long time with city officials, and nobody knew about it. And of course, it's economic development. We can't tell anybody. Some other city might get it, blah, blah, blah. You know how that stuff goes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're giving these guys everything. Any other business that came to Grand Forks that I've seen over the years has never got anything like this, ever.
Let's talk about what they're getting. You guys brought this discussion down from Grand Forks, the region economic development. I'm seeing a lot of dollars getting pumped in from the state. There's this group as well. It kind of feels like a sweetheart deal to get this thing here. And what frustrates me, as I'm sure you guys, obviously you're the ones that are going to be calling right next to it, is that they didn't even bother to ask you or to have a conversation until the discussion and the decision seems to have already been done. Craig, the numbers here I'm looking at, they can claim about the jobs, the employment, but the upfront cost when it comes to taxes, they're going to have to find a way to pay for this somehow. If they approach you, you're a business owner in the area.
Right. Well, their first thing is, in order to make this deal happen, they have to rezone the land, and because it's farmland, and the farmland was harvested last fall. It was a beet crop, and it's actually very good farmland. So they have to get by that by rezoning it as commercial one.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they do that, that's where the problem comes in with me as a business owner. They annex all of those businesses in. I think there's 40-some businesses, Frank.
80 lots.
80 lots, but 40, yeah. So then that puts the burden on us because they want us to pay for a lot of the infrastructure that we wouldn't need it unless this plan came to town.
There. Yeah, so you're going to be having to pay for the roads, for the water infrastructure, I imagine, is
right.
what they're going to be asking of you And they're telling you this. They didn't come and ask, say, hey, this is a development here. So
The very first meeting we had with them, they said point blank, we have to annex those properties along the eastern border of this property because we need their special assessments to make the special assessments go for this corn plant, to get across this 370 acres, to get their special assessment. There's 2 streets that are going to go through there. There's another street on the one side. So there's going to be 3 special assessments just for those streets. You got your sanitary sewer, you got your water, you got the dike assessment. And the problem is that some of these businesses have been out there up to 65 years. They're all self-contained. They don't need any city services. We have fire protection in the township. We take care of them as good as we can in the township. They're not going to really gain anything from the city except a tax increase. That's what I can see.
have they given you a figure, Craig? I come back to you as far as, because you have a business that's dang near right across the street from where this proposal is.
From what we can, that was the last thing. I mean, this thing started probably almost 2 months ago now, and every time we went to a meeting, which is typically every Monday night, we asked questions. We asked everything that they were concerned, all of the concerns about the traffic, the pollution, and all of the things, and we got no answers for all this time period. Last week, they finally approached us with what it would really cost each business, and that's kind of a wave of high and lows there too. But from what I can see, I'm talking about a 300% increase in what it's going to cost me from what I pay now.
Just because this plant's coming here, and not anything besides that, and now you're going to have to be writing a bigger check.
The special assessments on these businesses without the sanitary sewer, which is a big deal, is $2,400,000 off of these businesses alone for the specials, and that's a 19% markup for city administration, and the state is paying 60% of the water main cost for Foo Fung, which is $309,800. No, they're paying $1,515,000 of the water costs.
Yep.
Yeah, and so that leaves $309,000 for Foo Fung to pay. Talk sweetheart deal. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty eye-popping, and that's why I keep coming back to. You have officials now in the state running around bragging about these sort of things, yet you've got a community now that's concerned about this development. You mentioned the word concern, Craig and Frank here. What's the biggest concern about this plant for you guys? I mean, is it the cost? Is it the smell? What is it that's the driving concern?
It's such a combination of all of those, Tyler. It just the whole thing to me would have been a no-brainer not to do this in the first place. And their listing is that they're going to have 266 jobs, or 233 jobs. Okay, well, I'm sure you're aware of the fact that when you drive around Fargo, you look at these businesses. There's the governor gave a state-to-state address here probably about 3 weeks ago now, and he stated in that address that there was 30,000 jobs in North Dakota that couldn't be filled.
Right.
So my thought is, well, make that 30,000 233. We don't know. They say they're going to fill the jobs. They're telling us that if they have to ship people in, they will ship them in. Well, we don't know anything about what kind of people are coming in. They're also putting out the fact that they're going to be, I would say the top 10 people would make, a couple 100,000. Doing a little research, the main guys, it's factory work. We found out it's probably an $18 an hour for, I would say, 60% of the workers that are going to be there. So that, to me, that's 233 jobs for the pollution. What it's going to cost is for COVID money and infrastructure money from us, for legacy fund money that they're putting in for the pipeline. To me, it's just it's a bad deal all the way around.
Frank, when I visited with you about this, you had mentioned about the water that is going to be necessary for this plant. Explain that to us.
Well, first of all, they're going to take water out of the Red River, and they're going to try to take it on the north side of, as you know, the Red Lake River comes into Grand Forks via the Forks, and most of the water that the city uses for potable water in the city comes out of the Red Lake River. 90% of it does. So they want to capture that water before it hits the Red River. Now, these guys are going to use raw water from the Red River, and I think all of you know after last year's drought, the Red River was pretty low.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad shape. And the amount of water that they're going to use every day is equivalent to the amount of water that the city of Grand Forks uses every day. Wow. Same with the natural gas. They're going to use as much water and as much natural gas as the entire city does every day. So another little thing here is that Grand Forks needs to get the natural gas line from the west.
Mhm.
That's pretty agreeable, I think. Now they're trying to decide how big a pipe they should have because these guys are going to take all the natural gas. If it's what, an 8-inch line,
A 12-inch.
12-inch line, they're going to take all the natural gas. So now they're thinking about trying to pay for more and make it bigger,
Mhm.
and so Grand Forks can get a little of the excess of the natural.
A little bit.
But the water usage is going to be tremendous.
Mhm. Frank Matichuk, my guest. We had Craig Spicer as well, talking about Foo Fag. Somebody's asking which country owns Foo Fag, and that is China. And that's a whole other conversation that I know some people have concerns with. You guys have a little bit more time? I got to take a quick pause here, but I want to come back and talk about, because there's been action. There's been grassroots, now opposition to this, and I want to talk about the things you guys have been working on. I know there's a petition from the within the city limits of Grand Forks that was handed over. We'll have that conversation as we continue on Afternoons Live Monday afternoon. We're just getting started here on KFGO. A conversation with Craig Spicer, Frank Matichuk, both up in the Falconer Township near Grand Forks. So this is where they're wanting to annex or wanting to put this Foo Fang corn milling plant. And fellas, as somebody was asking, who owns this company? Well, it is China. And I know that just gauging by headlines, that's a concern for some people. But I'm curious, you've been a part of these meetings now, albeit after the fact. I wish they would have got you involved earlier. What are you hearing as far as concerns from your neighbors?
Well, the actual number one thing we hear about is odor. We have a couple plants in Grand Forks now that make an odor. We don't need another one. That's what a lot of people say. Nobody has really told us that there never will be an odor with this plant. They try to, talk it down.
Mm-hmm.
The odor is the number one thing that I hear about. Second thing is water usage. We don't need to give them all the water out of our Red River. The third is the transportation issue. The roads going in here are not big enough to have the 200, 250 trucks more that are going to come through. We got the North Dakota mill now. We can barely handle the trucks that are there. They're going to need to make some 4-lane roads. There's 2 roads going into the plant that are going to have to be totally rebuilt. There's no way they can handle any of the truck traffic. And then the fourth thing is taxes. People just don't want their taxes to go up. And the citizens of Grand Forks have been told this will never cost you a penny. Don't worry about it. And I guess a lot of them just don't believe that. Because there's always associated costs with growth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're talking this is.
Well, and I think it's pretty telling that they're concerned. Is the fact that you've got now, I think it was the chief operating officer from this company on the U.S. base. I think they were talking with the Herald just last week, trying to, hey, everybody calm down a little bit, But I mean, the fact of the matter is, one, this seems to have been a handshake done in a back room somewhere before you guys were ever involved. I'm not sure if there's any proof to that, but it certainly has that appearance from where I sit, that there's somebody out in Bismarck that shook someone's head saying, we got a spot for you. We'd love to have you out here. And then to have this blow up the way it has now, they didn't see it going this way. I'm curious because it was last week, residents of Grand Forks, concerned residents, got 5,000 plus signatures saying we want to put this to a vote of the people. And if it comes to a vote of the residents of Grand Forks, I don't know that it passes. You guys talk about your township and have very little support there. If the people that are going to be the neighbors aren't supportive of this, I don't know how you could go forward with it.
Well, what happened there is just exactly what you said, Tyler. This thing was done behind closed doors, and then as we approached it, we formed our group of concerned citizens of Grand Forks, and as we went down that road, every time we opened another door, we found out another issue that we were concerned with, and it just kept popping up, red flag, red flag, red flag, and it ended up that we were actually doing the work for the city council because they swore that they were doing the due diligence and being as transparent as they could, and when we go to the meetings, they never answered any of our questions, never gave us any heads up on what was coming down the pipe next. And so we opened up the door literally for them to say, oh, well, we've checked with and the whole time they hadn't checked with any agencies. We were checking with the EPA and the FBI and all of trying to get some support from somebody to give us a call on, should we be concerned? Well, back to Mr. Kramer, finally when they got him on a talk show in Grand Forks, he said that there was reason for concern and that we ought not to do this, and it went right over their head. So it's just saying to me that it's a handshake and behind the doors, and it's a done deal.
Yeah, it was noticeable, and that U.S. Senator Kevin Kramer has basically come out and seemingly opposed to this. Now, I really get the sense that the driving factor behind this is the governor's office and Doug Burgum, and he's got his economic development or commerce director out there. I know that there was a chamber event here in town just last week, seemingly, why aren't people thanking us for this? I'm curious, are they listening to you? And whether it's the city council, the mayor, I know Mayor Bochenski's come out pretty big supporter of this. Are they at least taking into account your concerns? Or, as you said, it seems like this feels like it's almost a done deal.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. The Faulkner Township didn't have anything to do with getting this citizens group together. These people just got so upset with the city council not answering questions. They were calling them individually, trying to get answers, and they didn't. And they said, hey, we don't like this. We don't like the way it is. By the way, my township is very supportive of not having this plan. In fact, I haven't met one person in the township that actually wants this. So I just want to clear that out to support.
Sure.
We're pretty unified on this.
You guys have a little bit more time for me? I got to get a KFGO news update here. If you have questions, comments, you can send those into the Ag Consultants of North Dakota text club at 35270. Question is going to be, is there any way to get it moved, to prevent it? Is it the overall project itself? More of this conversation, because you know what? They deserve answers. And they deserve people that are going to be on the other end of that line. I don't care if it's in Bismarck at Burgum's office, if it's the mayor, if it's the city council. All this kind of wishy-washy approach that has been up until this point isn't acceptable. You won't accept it wherever you're listening to me right now. Why should the two gentlemen in the studio have to be expected to do that? It's a question I have for you. I'm Tyler Axis. Afternoons Live. It is Monday afternoon. KFGO time is 2:28. KFGO News on the way. We'll check in with Rusty Halverson as well. Don't go anywhere. Oh, hey there, Rusty Halverson.
Hello, welcome back from the weekend.
Yeah, they're too short. They're always too dang short.
Yeah, they go by quickly.
And very quickly. But
Very quickly.
good to be back. Lots to talk about. I know
Yeah.
you've been busy hard at it again, like always.
Yep. Defensive day in the grain and oil seed sector today, Tyler, and we're still watching that situation in Ukraine. And Reuters News reporting from that country, farmers have planted about 371,000 acres of their spring crops. Now, according to AgWeb, they've got about 102 million acres of agricultural land covering around 70% of the country. So just a smidge so far. But William Lefferts is a former senior ag economist at USDA's Economic Research Service. He says early planted corn and sunflowers could be the first crop casualties of the war. Now, Reuters News saying the country has already suspended exports of multiple commodities like rye, buckwheat, sugar, salt, meat, livestock, and USDA estimating around $1.2 billion were food insecure last year. Wow. That was a 32% increase from the prior year, and this could make it even worse in countries like the Congo, Ethiopia, Haiti, South Sudan, Syria, Yemen. So a very serious situation.
Yeah, you think about the global crisis that could be following what's going on in Ukraine.
Absolutely.
We'll continue to follow it.
Yes, we shall.
All right, my man, I appreciate it. You come back next hour, all right?
Can do.
Rusty Halverson, best in the biz, him and Sarah Heinrich, multi-award-winning journalists of agriculture. Just go to KFGO.com. You can click on that agriculture tab to learn a little bit more. We're going to learn a little bit more about what's going on the ground up in the Fulton Township, also in Grand Forks. This Foo Fang group. I don't know if they saw this resistance coming. Certainly somebody in the governor's office should have, but the way they went about it, well, we'll talk about it when we come back. Right here on KFGO. In our township, we're talking about Foo Fang, this proposed corn milling plant. And guys, we're just talking on the break, and I want to bring it on air. It's dry out there. And we're asking about how much snow you still have in your shelter belts. I tell you what, I think we crested yesterday or this weekend here in Fargo at about 24 feet. You drive south, there's not a lot of water. You talk about how much water this proposal would do. I mean, do they have a fallback? So if the red is as dry as it's been over the last couple of years, I mean, they're going to start having to pull water from other resources, I'm sure, that the city and your township rely on.
That's right. Their backup plan, I believe, is Lake Ashtabula, Valley City. I think it comes through the Cheyenne and then works its way up the red. I'm not too sure how that's going to work, but they're telling us that's one of their backups. And then we also have an aquifer, and it's probably 50 miles away in the Fordville, Inkster area, and that's the Agassiz, and that's another backup. But that would, to me, it would cause a lot of trouble because there's a lot of people that feed off of that water in that area already. I don't know if they would withstand that, or it would cause trouble right there.
Well, and again, it comes down to you guys are asking questions. You're not getting straightforward answers from officials, whether it's from this group or, quite frankly, from your city or the state, which is why I think I'm getting all these messages at 35270. People pretty upset. Tyler, regarding your discussion on the corn plant with open meeting laws, how much can be done in secret regarding discussions on bringing the corn plant? At some point, it should not be so secretive. I think that's where we're even getting more questions as to how it seems like all these decisions were already made and then finally brought forward to you. I mean, we're talking a potential timeline of at least 2 years here from some people's time, and we've only been able to discuss it for what, 3 months, 4 months?
Yeah.
So there's been discussions. You guys, in your township, I'd mentioned the city, they had a petition. Explain some of the grassroots of this township. Frank, I know you talked about not a single person seems in favor of this. Is there any activity that can be done from your standpoint on whether it's the township board? Explain that to us.
Well, the big problem here is that the state legislature back in the 70s gave larger cities the 2-mile extraterritorial zoning rights. That's what this falls into. So yes, it's in Faulkner Township, and we have our own zoning ordinances, but our zoning starts where the city's zoning stops.
Okay.
So that's the problem there. The township is working on the legalities of them taking property, doing other stuff. I really don't care to get into what our lawyer's doing right at the present time, but we're exploring, as a township, we're exploring every possible thing we can to stop this. I'm really proud of the citizens of Grand Forks. They stepped up to the plate and said, hey, we want to vote on this. Mm-hmm. And so it was strictly a citizen thing in the city, and we're hoping that the city council will get the message from that. The township itself, we have 3 housing developments out there. They're doing good. They're all self-sufficient. We have about 95 businesses in our township, and we're a half township. We're a river township, so we're not a full-size township. And we're pretty proud. Everybody gets along. We gravel our roads. We take care of our people out there, and so we wouldn't like to see this, because I don't want to get the phone calls every day. How come this place smells so bad? And that's who the first people they'll call is me, even though I don't have anything to do with it.
Yes, well, Frank.
It's like the road grader when he goes by. Every little old lady goes, "Do you tell him to put the blade down?"
Too many people got your number by the sounds of it, Frank.
Oh, yeah.
For people that are listening that might not be from this area, explain where the township is in relation to Grand Forks and where this plant is.
It's absolutely the first piece of property north of the city limits.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's right along the river. It borders the Red River, and it goes. It doesn't go as far as. Yes, we do go. We do go 1.5 miles west of the interstate of I-29, but then that's our boundary.
Okay.
And then we go 5 miles. Actually, we have 5.5 miles left from the city limits to the end of our township till we get to Ferry Township, which is the next township north.
Have you guys noticed the tension in the community at all? I know the township, you say, is pretty unified here, but I think of other instances, for example, Castleton. Seems like they're kind of going through some of this as well, to where now, because it seems like somebody from the governor's office, they have a press conference, and then all of a sudden you've got neighbors kind of upset at each other. Is any of that going on regarding this plant up in the Grand Forks area?
Well, as we acquired signatures for this petition, we found out that most people were upset because they hadn't even heard of it. So that was the first thing out the door. And then as the conversation goes on, it became the CCP conversation with a lot of elderly people. And then it breaks down into all the other elements of the pollution and the traffic and the money that's being spent and all of those topics, Tyler. So, yeah.
I'm going to ask this question that comes in by text, and if you guys don't know the answer, by all means, I'll do the Google. Tyler, what exactly does a corn milling plant produce? Comes in.
It produces, what they're going to produce is MSG, amino acids, about 4 or 5 other
Starches
and stuff that,
dog food.
yeah, whatever, yeah. And we were originally told that they wanted to put this plant here rather than sending unit trains of corn to China to do it they have a plant, they have 5 plants in China, whatever. They wanted to do it here, and they weren't going to sell anything in the United States. They were merely going to manufacture these products and send them back to China because they needed them over there. Now the song has changed a little bit. Yeah, we're going to sell some in the United States. So I don't know. We can get you a full list, and there's a lot of things on there you have trouble pronouncing, but they make it.
If you listen regularly, you know sometimes just the English language I have trouble with pronouncing.
Was on the letter from Dave.
From Dave. I'm looking for that.
Okay.
Dave, one of the guys that organized the petition drive listed all those chemicals they were going to have on there.
Well, I tell you what, while you're pulling that up, we'll get a weather update from Too Tall Tom Schmansky. Get this whole latest hour. We're going to have some precipitation. I know we need some of that tomorrow into Wednesday. We'll get that. And then we'll wrap up our conversation with Frank Matichek and Craig Spicer talking about Foo Fang up in the Grand Forks area. I'm Tyler Axis. You got locked into KFGO Fargo. Both were discussing the Falconer Township, this Foo Fang plant, and a message, getting a lot of messages. I'm just pulling out the ones that have questions for you guys here. Tyler, can you ask your guests what would the plant do with all the wastewater? Because we talked about how much water it's going to need to use with this process, pouring chemicals, pouring water onto this corn. Well, there's going to be some waste there. Have they been able to explain what they're going to do with it?
Well, they're supposed to have their own in-plant water treatment, which will treat it enough so that it can go to the city's wastewater treatment plant. That's the plan, right?
Right.
I guess. They have tried. They had a meeting. They tried to allow, I believe, a couple percentage of raw waste to go back into the English Coulee Diversion or the Red River, and they kind of made that statement, and that pretty well got killed pretty quick because one, you can't do it. It's pollution. It's not right. You just can't do that. And apparently, they thought they could get away with putting it. I think it was up to 10% back in, but that's kind of been squashed. That went down pretty quick.
So who when you say that went down pretty quick, it was squashed. Was that the city? Was that state?
The city administrator was the one that brought it up at the meeting because, there's about a 40-page
Todd
agreement that the city of Grand Forks has made up with their city attorney and Foo Fung with all kinds of different things that have to be met. And part of that was in there, I believe, and then that, no, you can't do that. So,
Has there been attempts to visit with the governor's office? I know.
I haven't.
Okay, because to me, it seems like all roads are leading to somewhere along the way. Governor Doug Burgum, like I said, I don't know if it was a handshake or what, but there was a lot of work being done before the public knew about that. The public clearly seems to overwhelmingly not want this in their backyard. I mean, is there anything that can be done aside from you? I know you got attorneys looking into some options. I mean, is it too far gone?
We did talk to our local legislators, state senators, and them, and I think a lot of them were just as surprised as we were, to be quite honest with you. Yeah. And I know a few of them quite well, and I don't think they'd lie to me. I think they were just kind of blindsided by this too. And once they got the feeling of how the taxpayers and the people in their districts felt, they've been kind of reticent to really say anything either way, which is a good politician, I guess. You just kind of wait and see what happens, But they're not out there saying let's do it, and they're not out there saying let's not do it. At least I haven't got any of them do that.
Nobody contacted.
But they're very interested. They're very curious. They want to keep informed. Frank, keep me informed. Let me know what you know if there's anything going on because I want to know.
Right.
So that's okay for now. But that would be 18, 42, 43, and 17 would be involved in this, and 19.
Well, we have a petition, Tyler.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is my next thing.
Yep.
That we decided to try the only approach that we thought would work with getting the city planners and the city commission to listen to us. And we needed 15% of the governor's race vote, and we surpassed that. That would have been 3,600 signatures, and we had 5,318. Wow. Once the word got out and everybody learned about it, they were more than willing to sign the petition and let it go to a citywide vote. So that's where we're at now.
Well, and if that vote comes back from the city overwhelmingly rejecting this, I just don't know how you go forward with this project. I'm not saying that they won't. They'll say, look, we're doing everything by the letter of the law, that we have the right to do this. But if your neighbors are basically saying we don't want you there, I don't know how they go forward with it. I don't. But final word goes to you guys. I've got a couple of minutes here. I appreciate your time. I've got.
I think to answer your question, you'll have an all new city council next time around.
Yeah. Well, and elections do have consequences.
People
Yeah.
on the city council are really taking a lot of hits on this, and they don't seem to really. I don't know.
They don't understand the issue. They really don't. There's no getting through to them. I just think they're too far gone with this, that they think they can't come back out and present themselves as trustworthy anymore to the city. That's where it comes down to me.
And they can't reel it back in, is what their mindset is.
Right.
That's why I asked if it's too far ahead, or if if you have a groundswell of the citizens saying no thanks, I just don't know. And Frank, I think you're spot on. They push us through. Whether it's coming from Bismarck or from the city council, there's going to be some new faces and new people in those chairs. Final word goes to you guys. I've got a couple minutes here, Frank. I'll let you kind of wrap things up for me.
We're not going away. Craig and I don't have China fever. We're attacking this issue on the merits of the water, the odor, the transportation, the taxes, the fact that they're taking 370 acres of really good prime farmland, when in Grand Forks County you can just go a few miles to the west and you're on ground that can't even grow a tree. So there's just a lot to this. There's a lot of things that could have been done different here. A little information, a little truth and transparency. I don't think the people would have been quite as upset as they are now. They really riled them up. I mean, you talk to people, restaurants or whatever, they see me or Craig and they know us from what. The biggest thing in Grand Forks is watching the city council meeting now, if you can believe that. Yeah, I'm serious. It is.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
And they come up to us all the time and say, "Hey, keep going, guys."
Yeah,
or
way to
whatever,
go. Thanks for doing it.
We're not going away. We're not going away.
No.
That's all there is to it.
The last thing I'll put to it is it's morally wrong. It really is, with all of the negatives that are coming through, and then they're going to just, I mean, they're talking jobs with 233 people. That's really not an issue. So it's morally wrong.
Fellas, you got a platform here to continue this conversation as well. I want you to know that, and if I have to come up to Grand Forks and sit with you guys, save you a trip down to Fargo, I'm more than willing to do that, because these sort of things, as I said, the whole approach seems just backwards to me. And the fact that I know of officials running around trying to take credit for this while you've got communities that are pretty much ripped apart right now that are frustrated with how it's going. It's been wrong. So I appreciate you guys coming in, sharing your side of this. We're going to continue it. You're not going anywhere. I'm going to be right here, and we'll have the conversation again, all right?
Thank you for your time.
I
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
us, Tyler.
Thanks for coming down. Frank Matichek, Craig Spicer, both, they're opposed. My question for you is, if this were happening in your community, I don't care if you're listening to me in Findlay, Rugby, Wapaton, how would you feel about this? So you can go get answers from your commission. You got the governor's office not really going about this, aside from saying, pat me on the back for what I was able to do for you, instead of, hey, what am I doing to you? Would you want this? 35270. That's the Consultants of North Dakota Text Club. You can call me on the Laney studio line, 237-5948. I'll get to all the messages already sent in and more after this CBS National News update. We'll check back in with KFGO News. Also, later on today, we'll talk about Will Smith, that whole debacle. Were you as stunned? Your thoughts on that? Also, Foo Fighters, drummer Taylor Hawkins passing away tragically over the weekend. I wrote an article about that at KFGO.com. Thanks for the kind words. We'll discuss that, get your take on just celebrities and the impacts they, quite frankly, do have on you and I in our lifetime. I'm Tyler Axis. You got locked into KFGO Fargo. Stick around. 3:05. Here's what's trending right now. You're probably not surprised on this day. A lot of the talk, and we will talk about it after we wrap up our conversation on this proposal up in Grand Forks, is Will Smith and the slap that you probably heard about this morning if you're like me and you didn't watch the Oscars. It's just not really my thing. I know that they said, hey, ratings were up. I'd be curious to see how the ratings were post and pre-assault from Will Smith on Chris Rock. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, as I said. But all these messages that have come in, I've not seen one that says, yep, this is a great idea. This is a great move. That we're so thrilled that the governor's office is putting this onto us. And these are not all, I assume, just Grand Forks numbers that I've got here. You know, people are against it. In fact, there's somebody from Larimore that's texting it as well. We'll get to all this because I think of the approach itself of the secretive way that it seems like maybe if we just get this to this point, so it's so far down the road, there's going to be no way we get to reject it, right? That's the feeling I get. We'll continue right after this KFGO News. You know, I'm going through some of the information here, what little we've got on this Foo Fang proposal. And, yeah, I mean, there's money being put in here. There's money being put in. That, you know, if I'm a taxpayer up in the area and, a special assessment for this, when quite frankly, we were doing just fine before this was, quite frankly, feeling like it was being forced upon this township. I mean, that's the sense I get. And it's a sense that it appears a lot of you have as well. how neighborly of this governor's office. If that's in fact, there's a sense out there that there was a handshake made. Oh, maybe it was over in China getting some award. And then you've got this Grand Forks area. Well, if in fact there's any state dollars, whether it's legacy fund or other COVID dollars that was approved through this process, whether it's the emergency commission or the legislature, you can't neglect to keep in mind that the Senate Appropriations Chair for a very, very long time is from Grand Forks, Ray Holmberg. Now, I don't know Senator Holmberg's stepping away from his time out there now. But, it's not tough to draw a map of how this seems to have come about. But to not have the conversation with the residents that seem, quite frankly, more opposed to it now because of the way you went about it, it's a failure of leadership. Instead of, why aren't you thanking me for doing this for you? There's a sense that you're kind of doing it to them, Governor, and others involved in this process. So I don't know how we change that, because I've said into this microphone what feels like every other week now that there's 3 examples of this same thing. And Castleton is where we started with this. When there was this proposal there, you had citizens saying, look, we don't want this right here. Not opposed to the project in this case, but can't you move it just a little further out? Instead of finding out from a press conference in which we're all supposed to stand and applaud. So there's that. You've got this Summit carbon capture pipeline where now you've got landowners saying, whoa. I get it. This is a way that, Harold Ham can make a little bit more money by the tax structure changes here. So good for him, but it's my land, and I just want to have some reassurance that, if I'm going to do this and provide the easement, that I'm getting paid properly, and that you're going to be making sure the thing's safe. Finding out again through press conferences held, coincidentally, in Castleton not long ago. And this in Grand Forks. People finding out after it feels like the decisions and the handshakes and the checks have already been switching hands. That's not the way we're supposed to. That North Dakota nice mentality, hey, we always look out for each other, that doesn't strike me as being the case for these projects. And quite frankly, I wouldn't expect any of you listening to me right now to be all eager for this, unless you're one of the recipients on the other end of one of those checks that's changing hands. For the residents up there that have to take this upon themselves to go get the petition saying, look, can't we all vote on this? Good for them, but it should never have had to have come to this. These conversations should be taking place at the earlier stages, not after this latter part. If the rumors are that this has been in discussion for 2 years and now it's only been 3 months, that the general public in the area that's impacted is finally getting word to where they can ask questions, you're going about it the wrong way. I'm going to go to the text club. That's the iConsultants of North Dakota text club 35270. A lot of thoughts in here. I tell you, this seems like another example of selling this country out the back door. We are paying premium meat prices due to foreign ownership of U.S. processing plants. We should own our own and sell our products to the world. Thank you. Another person actually emailed in. I want to thank Gary for emailing me. If this project is so great, why doesn't the state of North Dakota use legacy fund money to build it and keep the profits in North Dakota? See, now, I don't know if I necessarily agree with being this project. I get what you're saying, Gary, and I appreciate the email. But of all the things that we talk about, when we're talking, for example, about energy prices, what you're paying at the pump, the need for a refinery and what we're pumping out of the ground here, well, we got to ship it over there to get refined for this. Boy, do you remember when we were trying to be innovative? That's a key phrase that we like to hear all the time on all these flyers and ads that come from campaigns. We're going to be innovative. We're talking about, if we're going to need this, can't we do some of this on our own through the Legacy Fund, and a refinery is one of those. The benefit going where, saying, well, this is a China company, which I'm happy that Frank and Craig wanted to make sure that you knew that, hey, there's some people, albeit a minority, that their biggest concern is the fact that this is owned out of China. There may be some legitimacy, easy for me to say today, to that. But for them, it's about the water. It's about the waste. It's about the traffic. It's about the sheer volume of what this type of plant in the size is going to need to operate and what that's going to do on the impacts to them. Tyler, I'd be against it. My city council in Larimore are already screwing up a current infrastructure project that was voted down twice and still forced through. Another one. Tyler, what's the next step for a Chinese company buying up farmland to supply their own plant with corn? China is in it for themselves and not in this for any benefit here. I'm a township chairman in northeast North Dakota, and that's how I see it. Others coming in about ground force or about Will Smith. I'll get to all those in just a little bit here. The bottom line is there's a sense that it was secretive. I mean, people are pointing out open meetings laws. You know, where's the line drawn? If you're going to ask questions of those that have already been a part of the conversation, why aren't they answering your questions up front? I think that's a fair question to ask. I'll come back to more of these messages, whether it's about the Foo Fighters, Will Smith, this plant, right after this. I'm Tyler Axis. You're listening to KFGO Fargo. Time 3:19 Monday afternoon. It's got a feel of a Monday. This is one of those weekends. Well, first it was nice, if you can just enjoy a weekend and not have any plans. Oh God, take it. Don't take it for granted. Enjoy it. But boy, Friday night, and there's messages coming in already. We've been playing a lot of Foo Fighters, and we're going to. I mean, it's no secret that that's been my band. In fact, I felt compelled for the first time in quite some time to actually sit behind a computer and write. And Saturday morning, I wrote about this band, the loss of their drummer and Taylor Hawkins, 50 years old. And we don't know the cause of death. And quite frankly, you know what? I'm always of that mentality. It doesn't matter. I don't know why we always feel compelled that we need to know every little detail about some of these tragedies. Again, I think back to Bob Saget, right? No reason why the family should have had to hire an attorney to prevent more details of his death to go public. Well, I don't know why that urge is there. If there's some people that I just need to know everything. And so, for me, it doesn't matter. But I've always been, suspicious. I've never understood, I guess, why some people get so wrapped up in, like, the loss of a celebrity. Boy, did I feel this one. I felt gutted by that news. And I wrote about it at kfgo.com. You can just go to the blog section. Tyler's takes there. I'm going to get back into writing a little bit more like I used to. But thanks for those that reached out about that. Didn't expect it, but I appreciate your kind words. Some other people are texting in about that. Tyler, it's sad about the band going through meaning the Foo Fighters right now. One of my favorite bands of all time. Their songs always have so much meaning to me. It's a bad deal. It is. And we don't know, and we won't for quite some time. But, for Dave Grohl, obviously, for those of you that aren't familiar, was the drummer for Nirvana. And, of course, with Kurt Cobain's tragic death, it took a while for him to get back into music. He hadn't been able to play or even listen to Nirvana music for so long after that. And I would understand it, but I dread it that this could be another one of those moments for this band, who, quite frankly, is the one that, do you say obsessed? Do you get obsessed with bands? To all right, every little side project, every new sound, you go and you like it. Maybe you go buy the vinyl record. You get back to the old CDs. We all, I think, have perhaps that band. I'm curious what band it is for you. You can text into 35270. For me, it was the Foo Fighters. And they have that potential where, boy, we're not going to get anything new from them probably ever. And if we do, it's going to be totally different. Yeah, it kind of puts a pit in this the well of my stomach as well. So thanks for sending that in to 35270. I'll get into the Will Smith thing here in just a little bit of what we watched, whether this morning or last night at the Oscars. But I do want to take a moment here and remind you, if you're using the text club brought to you by the Eye Consults of North Dakota, go ahead and text the word meat to 35270 so you can get registered. For our meat raffle that's happening every Tuesdays on It Takes Two and every Thursdays here on Afternoons Live. It's your chance to win $150 worth of meat we're giving out each of those 2 days. You can't win if you don't play. You can't play if you don't text meat to 35270 or go to kfgo.com and get registered there. It's free. You don't have to register multiple times. You do it once, you sit back and you just be listening here. And every week we're going to be doing this. 3 on Tuesday, 3 on Thursday. And that's I want to thank our sponsors from Barnesville Grocery. All the bacon, all the brisket, all the ribs, all the brats, whatever it is that you want, that's brought to you by Barnesville Grocery. And you know what? We're going to wrap all this up. We're going to be doing this for a few weeks all the way up until April 21st. And then we're having a party that's going to have more meat to give away and a Traeger. And we're doing that over at Bar 9 on April 21st, which is going to be a Thursday. So we're going to get people qualified and hopefully see you all over there. The last time we did a Traeger giveaway for Afternoons Live over at Bar 9, packed the place. We're hoping to do that again. It's going to be a fun time. And the fact that we're able to talk meats with the meat dude, get you your own meat, and then hopefully one of you will end up getting this Traeger grill so you can cook said meat on. It's simple. You just go there. If you're texting 35270, the word meat, which a lot of you are, there's going to be a link sent back to you. All you got to do is click on it, fill out the information, set it, forget it, and then be listening to Afternoons Live and It Takes Two in the weeks ahead. A lot of those messages coming in. This has been one of those fun things to where we've been doing this for less than a week, and to have the type of buy-in from you as listeners makes this so much more enjoyable. We're talking hundreds of people already registered, trying to get their chance to get their hands on some meat. We did have our first winners last week. John Graves from this area. We got Barb Ripley from Pelican Rapids, and Dustin Machenbacher from Lidgerwood were the ones that won last Thursday. And I know tomorrow, if you're listening to It Takes Two, they're going to get you the latest 3 winners. And again, I want to underscore it. If you don't win last week, this week, the weekend, stay listening, because once you're registered for the entire meat raffle process. So all you got to do is text in and get that out. I'm going to put one final thing on this whole Grand Forks situation. Again, it shouldn't have to have come to this, to have these, residents of Grand Forks getting 5,000 plus signatures to say, can we all vote on this, please? It shouldn't have come to the process where you got a township now in unison saying, we're going to be the ones the most impacted, and you never even asked us. You told us. And now we're trying to have to figure out ways to eat the cost. If you're a business owner and all of a sudden you're seeing, I've got to pay a special assessment so we can increase the capacity of these roads, something that wouldn't be necessary had it not been for, this secretive deal that's already so far down the pipeline. Why are you doing this to us? Now, again, it shouldn't have to come down to these residents having to pick up the phone and call the governor's office saying, why and where have you been? I mean, you're coming up here. I know that you're going to come up and say, look, they're following the law. But if ever there was a time, and this is one thing I gave credit to Doug Burgum for doing when he took over as governor. It didn't seem like he was afraid to get in his vehicle and drive to a community where there was tension and talk it out, answer questions, listen. He did that during DAPL. That was something that I was critical of Jack Dalrymple at the time and those that were involved in the governor's office, that they didn't ever seem to want to go down there and listen and have that conversation. Doug Burgum did. And he didn't do that as of yet up in Grand Forks, and I think the people in the Falconer Township are owed that. I think those in Grand Forks are owed that. Have the conversation. Be upfront. That transparency that we all want from elected officials. And every time that we have something like this, that should just be expected, not requested. That's a part of the job. I mean, these officials work for the residents here. They don't work for their business partners at Foo Fang. They don't work for any other investors that might be making some money off this. They work for you, the residents of the area. So they should be expected to answer your questions since you're their boss. And up until now, it feels like they've been avoiding that. Not anymore. We're going to be making sure that the questions are asked right here, that their voices are heard. And I just hope that somebody out in the governor's office and at the city council in Grand Forks is listening. 237-5948. That's the Laney studio line. You can also join the iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club. That's at 35270. Let's talk Will Smith, the slap to Chris Rock. What's it mean to you? We'll talk about that and so much more coming up on the Monday edition of Afternoons Live. Stick around.
News and weather this hour brought to you by Dakota Monument. Dakota Monument Company, making memories last forever. Call for an in-home consultation.
You ever had one of those nights of sleep to where, all right, maybe you go off to Wonderland, you sleep a little bit, then you wake up, and then your body just will not let you go back to sleep? About that moment, you're right there, Rusty.
Christmas Eve every year.
Yeah, ooh. What's that I hear knocking? No, and then all of a sudden your body jolts you back up. I had one of those this morning, and it's frustrating because then you get in your own mind, be like, come on, you idiot, go to sleep.
Yep.
And I refuse to look at the clock because I would rather not know and be like, okay, well, maybe there's a slim chance that it's still like midnight and not 3:30.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, it's like maybe there's still hope for me to get some sleep.
Yep. The gears start turning and it's like, don't look.
Yeah, I refuse to look at the clock because I would rather not know and just sit and wander in my mind and be angry at myself
And that's
than have it confirmed.
yeah, and that's when you keep yourself up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I might as well have been up crunching numbers, doing taxes this morning.
It's that time of year.
It is that time. If
for
you have
lots
not-
of folks, yeah.
So don't forget, we got a little time here, but
Yeah.
anyway, there, I had to get that off my chest. Because, when I can't enunciate words like legitimately on these areas, I have to find the excuse. That's it for me today. I couldn't say it earlier.
You did well that time.
Yeah, well, because I've been practicing on the breaks.
Oh, speaking of that,
Yeah.
did you happen to catch any of the Twins game yesterday?
I did not.
Preseason, Boston Red Sox and the Twins. And Danny Glavine, the Dazzle Man, had the hiccups through most of the game.
That would be a nightmare.
And so if folks are on the Twitter, you can check out, I believe it's handle
I think
Twins Baseball.
Okay, I didn't have the game on, but I saw online somebody asking, I thought it was a Corey that was asking, hey, we need a remedy for hiccups here.
Exactly, because the Dazzle Man was hiccuping.
Okay, I didn't know what
And it was riveting radio. I could not stop listening.
You're being serious right now.
I'm being really serious right now. Yeah.
You enjoy listening to another man hiccup?
Well, no, not that. Just the struggles we face.
Oh, yes. We're all humans, you know.
Legitimately.
Yeah, legitimately. There you go. There's how I was wondering how you got there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not alone, man.
All right. Well, we're going to get through it together here. I want to talk
Absolutely.
about canola.
Yeah. Well, North Dakota Farmers Union says eliminating barriers to higher blends of ethanol one way to lessen America's dependence on foreign energy sources. And NDFU President Mark Watney says the group supports year-round use of E15. Lots of folks in favor of that in agricultural circles, Tyler. And also the approval of other crops such as canola as a feedstock for renewable diesel under the federal renewable fuel standard. Now, the EPA back in January, and we spoke about it back then, delivered a proposed rule that could create a pathway for canola to be eligible under the RFS. We're talking big ticket items, not just renewable diesel for the coast, but also jet fuel, liquid propane gas. Now, the OMB review would mark a final step before a proposed rule is released for public comment, and that final rule is expected to be published in July this summer.
July. Those sound like better days ahead.
Yeah.
Yearning for July, warm days.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Rusty, I appreciate it, my man.
You bet.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Rusty Oliver said if you can't wait till tomorrow, him and Sarah Heinrich put all their work right at kfgo.com. All you got to do is click on that agriculture tab. While you're there, after you're done reading their work, you can go to Gear Up for Grilling and get registered as well, as many of you had during today's show. CBS National News on the way. We'll talk about Chris Rock. We'll talk Will Smith. More messages coming in about the Foo Fighters and Taylor Hawkins. It's all on the table. Final hour and a half with you, me, this microphone, your cell phone. Stick around. officially got up then, I suppose, for the day. You know, you got your routines. You check out kfgo.com. Yeah, see what's cooking, what Haney and the crew's been working on in the morning. Then I jump on Twitter, see what's maybe trending nationally. And Will Smith, the slap. And so when I first saw, the Academy Awards are condemning Will Smith's actions last night, my mind went right away that this had to be some part of a bit, right? Yeah, that this was some lame attempt at entertainment. And then I watched the uncensored version of it, and boy, nope. That was real. And I guess the reaction to it is what is on everyone's minds. Was Will Smith within his right for defending his wife's honor against a comedian that took a shot at her appearance, who has that appearance because of a disability, because of a disease that she's now been diagnosed with? And I think first came public with that just a couple of months ago. So it hasn't been known that Jada Pinkett has this disease for forever, but it's been out there well enough, and it was in headlines then. Now, I'm not one that necessarily follows celebrity news. I didn't expect to come in here to talk about the Oscars today at all, because it's just not my thing. For some it is, and I appreciate the passion they have for these things. It's just that's not really me. But this, you got to talk about it. And the thing is, now that I've, again, spent more time learning about the relationship between Will Smith and Chris Rock than I ever cared about. All the way back to the days of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where Chris Rock played a character and that character's sister. I don't even remember the episode, but apparently it happened. So they've known each other for a long time. But then you can go and, it had Chris Rock, who's a comedian. Now, I want to know if that at all plays a factor in your mind about this and what comedians do, for their jobs when they go out there and they say things that are edgy, right? But at some point, you might take that step over the edge into something that's unacceptable. For example, criticizing and making fun of someone's appearance because they've got a disease. There's a line crossed there, right? I don't care if you're a comedian or not. I think back, and I'm not comparing these two instances, but I just want you to remember the reaction that so many people had when you had a candidate for the president of the United States and Donald Trump mocking somebody with a disability. You were outraged, right? I know I sure as hell was. So there are things that, quite frankly, are off limits. So to have that joke, albeit as flat as what it was, it wasn't humorous, I didn't think at all. To have that, do you criticize, are you angry at Will Smith for responding in the way that he did and going up and slapping, Chris Rock on a stage in front of the world for those that were watching? So when I think about the mindset that Will Smith, the one thing that shocked me about the way it went down was how quickly Will Smith went and was laughing at one moment to going to turned it up to 11, storming the stage, slapping Chris Rock, and then the pure rage that you could hear in his voice after yelling at Chris Rock. How quickly that demeanor turned around was eye-popping to me. But I'm going to be as upfront with you as I can. You know what? There was times when we've had altercations. And unfortunately, you look back and regret, and boy, did they get physical sometimes. For me, yep. And the couple of times that stand out to me were, one, dealing with a significant other that some guy had a comment towards. Well, you know what? I got hot-headed. The other time that stands out to me is, for many of you, you know that I've got an older brother, an older sibling that was born with a disability. And then somebody had a comment about that, and you know what? I got physical. I'm looking back and regret, because you know what? An adolescent at the time. I was young, hot-headed. But here's the thing. Both those times, punishment followed the action. and deservedly, rightfully so. You know, had detention one time, had to stay after it. You know, all that stuff because you were young and dumb. This was a grown man taking these actions. I'm curious, because of the circumstance that was just laid out for you. One, that it was about his wife. Two, that it was about a disease that she has. And the pattern that seems to have been brought forward with Chris Rock, making fun of these two as a couple. Do you excuse Will Smith at all, or do you think there's got to be some sort of punishment? Whether that's revoking the Academy Award that he went to later on to receive for his acting in the movie about the Williams, or where do you fall on this is what I'm asking. 35270. I'm going to come back to other thoughts that have come in, seemingly on both sides of this. And I'll get to that right after this weather update from Too Tall Tom Schmansky. You're listening to KFGO Fargo. I'm Tyler Axis, and this is Afternoons Live. Final hour of Afternoons Live getting underway here on KFGL. I'm Tyler Axters, your host. Eric Johnson, well, he's your producer. I'm going to be with you till 5, but Eric Johnson's got the drive time news.
Yeah, we're deep in the bench this week with Derek in Florida.
Do you have a pulse? Because we need you. We need you to get these folks home on the drive time news.
So yeah, Paulie Lyons and I will be bringing you home on the drive time news all week. We'll see if we can mix. Yeah, well,
you better get through today and see if they
yeah, right.
We'll
day at a time for now, but
okay. Well, in fact, with Derek gone, we got Matt English coming in just a little bit. We'll recap the weekend that was in sports as well. Looking forward. Final four. Here's what I'm excited for: Duke, UNC. Give me North Carolina. Come on and raise up.
Yeah, that seemed to be the matchup that when things were starting to shake out and you saw some of the upsets that everybody was like, let's just try to keep these two together. Because have they ever met in the Final Four?
Nope, not that I don't think so.
Which is crazy to me, that two teams that have been that successful for that long.
Yeah, and this is, Coach K's last season. So what more fitting way than to lose to UNC in your last game?
Well, didn't he lose to UNC in his last game?
In the last home game at Duke, yeah. So why not go 2 for 2 on that? Can you tell I'm not a Duke fan? There are some sports teams that you either are a fan or you absolutely dislike them for reasons. New York Yankees, Duke, let's see, New England, the Patriots.
Yeah.
Is there one in the NBA, or are we just kind of done with the NBA?
Lakers, maybe. Boston,
Lakers,
maybe.
Okay, yeah, no, you're right the first time. The Lakers. The Lakers would be the one that if you're not a fan, you're like, you just want them to lose. Okay, there. Who do we miss? 3-5-2-7-0.
I think Montreal in the NHL gets that rap a little bit, but they haven't done much lately. So
everyone's just kind of, you just stay over there.
Yeah.
Be mediocre.
Yeah.
I can't talk today. Have you noticed?
It's Monday.
That's Monday. Feels like a Monday. All right, Text Club. Chris Rock, Will Smith, and Jada. And if you're just joining us, there was a lot of thoughts on this, so I'm coming to those. Tyler, Chris Rock went way too far with the joke. I would have slapped him as well. Maybe not on that stage, but he would have been confronted, guaranteed. Another one that comes in. Tyler, there's also a trope of black women being masculine in addition to the whole hair loss issue. I wish Will had handled it better, but I get it. Tyler, what if been Amy Schumer he slapped? I'm guessing then his actions would have held different consequences. There's no doubt. There's no doubt that would have changed that. Tyler, Jada's face after the joke said it all. If Will had just held her hand and let her know he will take care of it after the show, and then made a statement with words after the show about how his wife was upset the joke was inappropriate given the circumstances, etc., then Chris Rock would have suffered the consequences of his decision to use the joke. Since Will opted for anger and violence, he really brought the event down and ruined it for the first black producer and director of the show. Ruining it for everyone else that was receiving the awards, including Will Smith, winning, I think, his first award. Yeah, I mean, it tainted the whole show. I mean, it did. For all the other notable first-time wins of an Oscar, not a single one of them is being talked about today. It's all about this incident. Tyler, both were wrong on how it was handled. I think Putin and COVID stress has got to them both. There's another aspect to this situation specifically when it comes to Will Smith, Jada Smith, Pickett Smith. Again, I am not one that, let's see what BuzzFeed said. Let's go to TMZ. The whole tabloids, the paparazzi, it's just not my thing, But because of the outroar and rage about this today, I had to do a little diving in. I mean, they've had a rocky couple of years in their marriage as well. I think, she's got, is it a Facebook thing? Is it YouTube? I don't know. Like Jada's got this red tabletop to where the only reason I know that is because my significant other watches it. And every now and then we get the luxury of getting to watch what the other person wants to watch. And I mean, they talked about, she cheated on Will Smith, right? I think is the story, and they're still together. So I have no doubt that also, the rockiness of what they've gone through as a married couple probably fueled a little bit of the reaction. You know, and on the flip side, I'm not trying to make excuses for Chris Rock. I'm not at all. I want to make that perfectly clear, because I already told you about there are things that are off limits. I don't care if you're a comedian or not. I mean, is it proven that he knew of her diagnosis? I mean, there's a chance that he, looking around from the stage, had the comment and saw the appearance and didn't know. And I don't say, hey, well, that lets him off the hook. But we don't know that either, unless he's come out with a statement and has made that clear. If so, I haven't seen it. Tyler, if it was you or me, we would be in jail. All I know, we sure as hell wouldn't have been allowed to stay in the room. You know, I mean, people earlier were comparing this to those unruly fans that we've talked about. They've been escorted out of gyms, out of courts, out of, any other venue, and that didn't happen last night. Tyler, just wanted to say thank you for the concert tickets to 38 Special. The seats were awesome. Concert was awesome. We had a great time. Thank you. I said you got to let us know how it went, so thank you for filling us in on the show. Unfortunately, I couldn't get down or over there to take it in myself. So I'm glad you went. Glad we were able to send you in. I'm glad you had a great time there as well. Tyler, the Cowboys. Yes, the Cowboys. We'll add that to the teams of which you either are a fan or you do not want victory anywhere near them. Thanks for adding that one. Okay, there's a joke in here about the Fresh Prince. You can figure out that one. Tyler, seriously, though, the guy is a comedian, and he made a joke, maybe a tasteless joke, but a joke nonetheless. People need to lighten up on today's, quote, woke society is soft. The thing, and maybe it's, again, because I've had experience, that there are things off limits. And someone's diagnosis of an ailment or a disability, that's crossing the line for me. And I don't care if you're a comedian or not. So we'll come back to all these. In a little bit, we'll be talking sports with Matt English as well. I'm Tyler Axis. You got it locked into KFGO Fargo, whether that's on 790 AM, 104.7 FM, 94.1 FM, or perhaps worldwide at KFGO.com. KFGO.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Afternoons Live. And you know what? Click that subscribe button. Price is Right. It is free. Iconsons of North Dakota Text Club, just blowing up today. I want to thank you all for taking some time to send in your texts. Thoughts on all topics that we've covered today. Tyler, I missed some of the show, but I was impressed with how well Rock took the slap and still performed. I'm not a Rock fan, but that had some class. You know, there is something to that as well. Was it Mike Tyson? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Well, his plan before and quite frankly after getting slapped in the mouth was to continue on with the job that he had before him and to not retaliate by throwing a hand of his own. You know, I mean, what he said led to the confrontation. I have no doubt there's a longer history of the tensions between the two. But to not do anything in retaliation physically, and then to go on with the show, yeah, albeit I'm sure flustered, because how could you not be? That does say a lot as well. Tyler, Chris Rock is extremely talented, but he never seems to know where the line is, and he often crosses it. Well, and I think I haven't seen a whole lot of people defending the joke, albeit it wasn't a good one. Some are saying, well, this is what comedians do. It was just, it could have all been avoided. 237-5948. Laney's studio line is available to you. And, of course, as many of you are, texting into 35270. I want to get back to the person texting in. The Cowboys are the team that, if you're not a fan, you really don't want them to win. Because we got some Cowboys fans in this building. And you're spotted. I think for me is they force it upon you. It's America's team. America's game of the week is either the Green Bay Packers or the Dallas Cowboys, and I, for the life of me, can't figure out. They could be a 500 team, and we're still forced to watch both these teams. But I think it's a fair addition to the whole teams you can stand watching win. That's where there's Duke fans out there listening, and I'm not a Tar Heels fanatic. I don't know what it is with me in North Carolina. Is that the place where I was supposed to be growing up? Because you got the Panthers. And it's kind of the Tar Heels is the basketball team.
Which, I mean,
why?
Also, they've been in national prominence for a long time.
Michael Jordan, I mean, come on. It doesn't get any better than that. But I really need UNC to win next week. My bracket was gone on night one.
Night one.
I had Kentucky. Good, color me stupid. This is why I don't do a whole lot of brackets. Night one, I just ripped it up, threw her away. I wasn't alone. One thing that is fun about this tournament all the time is, of course, the Cinderella stories. St. Peter's, the Peacocks. The Peacock gonna let me fly. Well, they flew all the way to, the farthest a 15 seed has gone. It was fun to watch up into, you knew it was going to come to an end. But boy, it's fun seeing that play out. That's why this tournament I think is so captivating. Throughout the years. The Frozen Four is coming up as well. I know you're the hockey guy here.
Yeah, you've got two Minnesota teams
right.
that made it in Mankato, or Minnesota State Mankato, and the University of Minnesota. They put a whooping on Western Michigan, who was representing the NCHC. Also, Denver beat Duluth and Michigan. So that's a lot of powerhouse teams in that Frozen Four. So that should be between Denver, Michigan. Denver and UND are tied for the second most titles all time. Michigan's holds that reigning title holding championship, and Minnesota's got 5 or 6, something like that. So there's a lot of hardware in that building.
Yeah,
going to that.
So that's next. Where is it?
It's in Boston.
It is Boston,
which I've been
so fun.
to a Frozen Four in Boston.
In Boston?
Yeah, they play where the Bruins play, and it's a great arena, great part of Boston, right on the river. And really, really fun.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun. Matt English is in the KFGO studio. I said, you know what, Derek Hansen's way. Usually this last hour we talk sports. You're the sports guy. Welcome back. Not just an Audibles contestant.
Yes, sir. Good to be back.
Have you caught up on sleep since these tournaments are finally done for you?
Yeah, we're pretty good in that department now. Been nice to sleep in my own bed the last week here. And, we're gearing up for some softball in this fall. I mean, weather, of course, pending. We'll see that. If that big storm on Wednesday comes to fruition, but Too Tall will keep us updated on that.
Yeah, and you know what? You want to listen to Too Tall because he doesn't overhype. He doesn't want to say things just to get you to click on it. And I heard him earlier today saying, there'll be a little bit, but nothing that's going to be breaking history. or records or all that. So I think we're going to be in the. It's been dry out there.
Yeah, Tutal was very clear that this is not going to be storm of the century. That this is a weather event, and that's about it.
Why he's the best in the business. That's why you follow him right here on KFGO. Sweet 16, now we've got the Final Four. Your thoughts? I've got a couple of minutes before we get KFGO news. I'm excited for Duke UNC.
Yeah, absolutely. They've never met in the NCAA tournament.
I know.
That's hard
period,
to believe.
right?
Ever.
Never,
Never happened. They've never collided in the tournament, and for it to, be for a chance to play for a national title. I mean, Coach K's last ride continues here in New Orleans. UNC, they got a new coach. Remember, Roy Williams retired last season, so they got Hubert Davis and taking him to the Final Four in his first season. That's just going to be an absolutely phenomenal matchup. And then the other one with Villanova and Kansas, they've actually met 8 times since Bill Self took over the Jayhawks in 2003, and Villanova's won 5 of those matchups. They met in the Final Four in 2018. Villanova won that game en route to one of the most dominant tournaments probably in my lifetime. They won every game in that tournament by at least 12 points, and they also won in 2016. So Villanova is one of the, really become a marquee premier program, and Jay Wright's just done an absolutely phenomenal job with the Wildcats, and just a very impressive, should be a fantastic Final Four.
I want to ask one important question because I made the claim, every sport has a team that you are either a fan or you despise. Are you a fan of Duke, or are you on the other side along with me?
No, I despise
Okay, thank you.
Duke
We
and
can get
everything
along.
about them, everything that they stand for, and that 30 for 30, the I Hate Christian Leitner, that ESPN, that was phenomenal. I loved watching that.
I felt like they interviewed me for that thing. Matt English is our guest. He's with 740 The Fan. Also, you hear him Thursdays here on Audibles. He's back now from all the tournaments. We'll recap the weekend that was in sports when we come back. I got to get you caught up with all the latest KFGO news. Messages continue to come in about Will Smith, a Packer fan, taking issue with me, taking issue with a team, that he loves the team, just not the quarterback. We'll have a little bit of fun in the final half hour. You got a locked into KFGO Fargo. Stick around. Get you caught up with some CBS and national news headlines. I'm assuming they're either going to be playing one of the two. Joe Biden had a bit of a press conference earlier today because of the remarks he said about Putin over the weekend. This guy can't stay in charge. Oh, and the Will Smith situation that a lot of us have been talking about throughout the day. When we do come back, though, Matt English is in studio. He's our sports guy. We're going to talk about the weekend that was in sports. If you want to add to the conversation, phone lines are open to you. Text club's open. And we're coming back to that conversation right after this. One for two ain't bad.
I mean, you're batting 500. That's a Hall of Fame career already right there.
It's done. Hanging up. I'm retiring. Today is it. Matt English, 740 The Fan. You can catch him here on Audibles on Thursdays as well. We're talking basketball on the Minnesota side of the river on the break. It was this week. This was the busy weekend over there.
Yeah, we got the high school boys basketball championships wrapping up this weekend. And in Class A, it was Hayfield defeating Belgrade, Bruton El Rosa 51-49. And bit of a local flair on that note. Sacred Heart in Grand Forks wound up as the consolation champions of that Class A tournament. So congratulations to the Eagles in Class AA. Annandale defeating Minneapolis North 60-49. In AAA, Totino Grace gets by De La Salle 50-44. And in the 4A championship, Park Center defeats Wayzata 58-53. So a lot of 50s and 40s scores in those championship games. A lot of defensive battles in those championships. But congratulations to those boys teams, those champions in Minnesota.
If you were to pull up a map of Minnesota and rattled those off and said, okay, now point where those are on the map, I would have been probably 0 for everything. But congratulations to those local teams. You had mentioned the scores being in 40s, 50s. I noticed that in the NCAA tournament over this weekend. There were some that didn't even crack 50. I was surprised to see that.
Yeah, I mean, even that that regional semifinal, I believe, between final between Villanova and Houston, that was 50-44.
Yeah.
Houston was like 1 for 20 from the 3-point line, just couldn't buy a basket. They were so impressive in taking down Arizona in the Sweet 16, but Villanova going back to the Final Four, and Duke and Arkansas in the other Elite Eight game out there in the West. I mean, that's Arkansas. You think about the defensive intensity that they had going back to Nolan Richardson and 40 minutes of what. Like, that was they've always prided themselves on defense. But Coach K, of course, we'll see if it ends up in a championship. I mean, you think about the run that he's had. A lot of people, Duke didn't have the most impressive regular season, lost to Virginia Tech in the ACC championship game. And, I don't know if a lot of people thought that they had the firepower to reach the Final Four, and that was in Gonzaga's region. They were the number 1 overall seed, and they got beat by Arkansas in the Sweet 16. So for Coach K, the job that he's done there, I mean, I hate him, but you got to respect him. He's a lot like Tom Brady. Like, we hate him. You either love him or you hate him, but it's undeniable the respect that he deserves from everybody.
See, I like, because I bring that up, and Derek Hansen's like, "Well, you just hate success." No. Is your bracket still alive?
No, it was that went up in flames a few weeks ago with some of the picks that I had. But thinking about this, Kansas a 1 seed, Villanova's a 2, Duke's a 2. I mean, North Carolina's an 8. But look at that game they had against Baylor in the round of 32. I mean, they were up by 25 points with 10 minutes remaining, and Baylor comes all the way back to force overtime, and Tar Heels get it right in the extra session. But I mean, that's a team that, again, only had 9 losses on the season, but ACC wasn't very strong with Duke, and, that was kind of it. So they didn't have a lot of respect put on their name coming into this tournament as well. But, I mean, you talk about a championship tradition, and Coach Williams really laid in place for Hubert Davis the foundation that they needed to once again go back to the Final Four.
Timberwolves, let's go back to Minnesota. Timberwolves, they're within reach. Where are they at seeding-wise right now?
They're 7th in the West right now, so they're in line in the top seed of that play-in tournament scheduled for April 12th through April 15th. And right now they're in line to play the Clippers. The Clippers are the 8, the T-Wolves are the 7. If the T-Wolves were to get up to 6, which is where the Nuggets are, they're a game and a half back of the Nuggets. So if they can somehow close that gap, they've got 6 games remaining due to the Timberwolves, and they're a game and a half back. But if they were to get to 6, they would take on the Warriors currently in the standings, who are 3, and then you have the top 2 seeds in the West, number 1, the Suns, and number 2, the Grizzlies. So again, T-Wolves right now, tough schedule. I mean, they've lost 3 of 4 and taking on a tough Raptors squad on Wednesday, and it's going to be, tough, I think, to kind of surmount that deficit, especially with the Nuggets. They don't exactly play a death row for their remaining schedule. So it'll be tough, I think, for the T-Wolves to get to that 6th spot. But if they beat the Clippers in that play-in tournament, then they would take on the 2-seed Grizzlies. Grizzlies are very young, a lot of talent, Ja Morant, but I mean the T-Wolves, you think about the young talent that's on this roster, they could certainly give a lot of teams in the West a run in their first round series.
How many regular season games are left? I mean, we got to be approaching the end here pretty quick. Right?
The T-Wolves have 6, it's anywhere from 6 to 8 for teams in the NBA, and a lot of still playoff positioning as up for grabs and teams jostling for that. But I mean, if I was a betting man, the Suns look to be head and shoulders above everybody else in the NBA. Already 61 wins, and they still have 7 games to go. And nobody else in the NBA has more than 52 wins. That's where the Grizzlies are. And the East is really lagging, with everybody kind of stuck there. 1 through 4 in the East is separated by just 1 game. Currently, the Celtics, getting a win over the T-Wolves yesterday, jumped into the 1 spot with just 47 wins. So the East, again, always kind of growing up. I remember the West was always a little stouter and had more depth than the East, but we'll see if that rings true come playoff time.
I want to give you a compliment from the listeners here. Tyler, don't you wish everyone had Matt's mental ability? He knows his stuff. So, catching people's attention over there. Minnesota Wild is another thing that, they have their ups, they have their downs. I mean, it's been entertaining to say the least.
Certainly, and playing a lot better in the last week and a half or so. 6 straight wins after kind of sputtering after the All-Star break. They
because they had 6 straight losses before that, didn't they? Or
they did. They
did.
did. They were really on a losing skid there that kind of hurt their playoff chances. We were wondering if maybe they would even get in, but now with 6 straight wins, beating the Avalanche, who are the NHL's leading points leader this season in overtime yesterday, 3-2, and obviously Kevin Fiala, very young, talented, bringing in Marc-Andre Fleury, I think, in net, really going to boost their postseason prospects. Because Fleury, a 3-time Cup winner, came over from the floundering Blackhawks, and of course winning those cups with the Penguins in the late 2000s. He's really, I think, going to bring a lot of confidence in net for the Wild in the playoffs.
Final one, Minnesota Twins. We're itching closer, and in fact, we're going to have this Thursday, I do believe, doing a Twins takeover here, and we're going to be handing out some tickets throughout the entire lineup of KFG. I'll give you more details about that after we get through this weather update. Grade this offseason, the transactions.
Well, certainly Carlos Correa is the big splashy move that they made. Probably the most coveted free agent that there was in this class. So for him to come at least spend 2022 in Minnesota, he's got opt-outs after this season and the next. So we'll see what the long-term prospects look like there. But obviously a big bat in the middle of the order. And as it always kind of comes down to with this team, it's about the pitching. How are they is it going to be more of a kind of by committee, or are they going to bring in somebody, maybe Dylan Bundy and some of the other guys they have in that rotation? It'll be interesting, but yeah, April 7th already, home opener versus the Mariners.
Yeah, and be here before I know it. I'm looking for that. We're going to be sending some of you down to Target Field to be taking all that in and more. Matt, appreciate it, man.
You bet. Look forward to doing it again here soon.
Yeah, Derek Hansen, he's gone. Matt English, he's in. I appreciate it, Matt. We'll talk again just later on this week. Audibles, get prepared. We're going to get you prepared for the weather that is ahead for you this week with Tutal Tom Schmancy. I'll come back. We'll wrap up Monday edition of Afternoons Live right after this.